Wabarakatuh. Welcome back to another episode of Reverts. My name is Nahela Morales. I am here with my co-host, Sister Orenda Dadkhah, and we are on episode number 92, only shy away from 100. Woo woo! All right. Well, first and foremost, I want everybody to get comfortable, well, kind of comfortable. We're only 16 days away from Ramadan, approximately, and so we have two very, very special guests today. One, a familiar face, author Sister Wendy Díaz, who, mashallah, you have seen her on the show. And we have a new face, which hope she will be part of our family, Sister Mariam Saad. And so today we will be talking about Ramadan with kids as mothers, as caretakers, and so on and so forth. But even more so, we are also going to be talking about their profession as authors, as writers, and what has inspired them to actually write these type of books, especially for our children. I personally have been a very huge fan of Wendy. I think from day one, I think all her books. I might be missing one, not sure. No, I have them all. And I'm waiting to buy Sister Mariam. So I'm a big book collector. I do read them. And I have two here of Wendy, which is my first Ramadan, and then Eid Empanadas, which are appropriate for this time of year. And so let's just get started with getting to know one another. We don't really read bios here because this is a very casual conversation, and we want you to share a bit about yourself. And tell us a little bit about yourself. And also, we want to ask our audience to please share out. Make sure to share, like, and leave a comment. Any questions you would like to know. And we will be leaving information on how to purchase these books as well. And we will let you know what link you need to be clicking. So let's start with Sister Mariam, since she is new to the family on here. Thank you so much for accepting this invitation. We're really happy to have you. And I want you to share a little bit about, your journey as far as I've seen your book around whole social media, mashallah. And I want you to tell the audience a little bit about your first, and now you have a second that just came on.
Yeah, thank you for including me in this interview. So I grew up in Southern California, and I always like to say, having grown up in Southern California, I always felt I was a little bit Mexican because of, all the influence. An example to give you, other than Mexican food, of course, an example to give you, I just remembered a few days ago going to a birthday party of someone in my class from when I was in first or second grade. And I came back from the party telling my mom about the piñata, and I didn't remember what it was called, or I was mispronouncing it, and it was in Spanish, so she didn't know what I was saying. But I told her what it was, and it was full of candy, and we broke it open, and we collected all the candy, and it was really fun. So she was really intent on wanting to find out what that was. And then one day we walked into a supermarket, and it was like in piñata heaven. It was, all the piñatas were like stacked on the top shelf all around the supermarket, and they had always been there, but we had never seen them because we didn't know what they were. And I was like, that's what the piñata is from the birthday party. So then we ended up having a party, and there was no birthday. We just had a gathering so we could have the piñata. And then from then our family friends would have piñatas at every gathering. So you would see this group of Egyptian families with their piñata. And we did that all the way up until I was in my 20s. I remember we still did that for the little kids. So I feel blessed to have not only grown up in such a diverse society, but to learn about different cultures and to feel like they're my own as well. And that is kind of what led me towards writing Trilingual Sofia, with the inclusion of the Spanish words in there. I think that we should all take pride in our multilingualism, our multiculturalism. America has done such a good job at branding itself. Everyone around the world wants to be American, wants to speak American English. And we tend to forget that we have something valuable when we're speaking a different language. So I wanted to remind people that it makes us strong. It's brain power, subhanAllah. And, when you know a word or an idea in a different language, it gives you a completely different perspective on how to look at things. And it shows you, because you learn about that society even though you're not in that society, but you know about it from the words. And the story was based on one of my friends. She is a Mexican convert. I met her after she had become Muslim, and I spent time at her house a couple times, and I really appreciated how they embraced her wanting to better herself. I feel like I can't even imagine coming home to my family and saying, I found something better than Islam. I know this is the right path, coming with a different religion. I know this is the right path. This is better for me. And, I would be disowned, So I can understand the converts that have to go through problems with facing things like that with their families. But I saw something different with her family, and I wanted to bring that to people. And I spent a Thanksgiving dinner with them once. We stood in a circle, and her dad led the conversation. We went around saying what we were thankful for, and I said, gracias a Dios y gracias. I haven't spoken Spanish in so long. Gracias a Dios por los amigos y la familia. Does that sound right? And we went around the circle, and then when it was back to her dad, he looked at me and said something in Spanish, and he said something really long, and I just kept nodding, and she's like, do you know what he's saying? I was like, no. And then when he was done, I was like, what did he say? She's like, I don't know. So I thought it was funny that she wasn't even that fluent, but we still get the exposure. And then at their party, they had karaoke, and I wasn't too afraid to eat anything, thinking that there might be pork, because I knew that they were accommodating her already, mashallah, and I really admire that. So the festivity, having been at their house for Thanksgiving, that kind of also led the way to me writing about Eid. And then for the second book, it was about Ramadan. And in the books, if someone is listening and they're not familiar with the books, the main character, the little girl, her mom is the Mexican convert. And the mom's family are not Muslim, and they host the little girl's family for Eid. They hold like a Mexican influenced Eid for them. And you see the traditions, the Islamic traditions of Eid in the story. So they wear their new Eid clothes, they go to Eid prayer, and then they go to the family's house for breakfast. And there you see some Mexican decorations and food and so on. And book 2 is very similar. Book 2, though, is about Ramadan. And they try fasting for the first time. They all fast, and it's the little girl Sofia. It's her first time fasting as well, so they're all fasting together.
Mashallah. So, yeah. I read a blog post for a mom who absolutely loved your books. I think it was the first book that she did the review on, but she compared it to Dora the Explorer, which was kind of, I haven't read the book. I don't have little kids anymore, but definitely I'll have to keep these in the stockpile for the future, grandkids or nieces and nephews or whatnot that come around the house. So it was fun to read that, and how she loved that trilingual aspect of it, where you have the English, you're introducing the Arabic, but it's focusing on teaching the Spanish, and there are color coordinated words in there. She mentioned, right?
Yeah, the Spanish words are highlighted in green, so they pop. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So I can imagine her excitement in how well it is. So anybody who has little kids, definitely you got to check these ladies' books out. They're very beneficial. I know I relied a lot on these kind of books when my kids were little, but there wasn't a very big selection 20-something years ago. So now you guys are very lucky. You have amazing authors, and because they have children, this is like a wonderful, they have great talent that inspires them to create these things for all of us. Mashallah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mashallah. And you know what? I'm thinking as I'm listening to her, and I know Wendy for many years now, for over a decade, subhanAllah, and how we've connected. And we are in Women's History Month as well. And how these two women are writing similar but different, and how they are pairing up, which is something that is not seen too much in our community. So we are uplifting and empowering each other as women. And so the competition is when we, there shouldn't be no competition. The only competition should be striving for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah.
And as we are motivating and encouraging one another, and I see Wendy promoting, Sister Mariam's book and vice versa, what have you. So I think this is also something very important to keep in mind for our audience, right? That the way we grow as a community is when we uplift and empower one another. And so for those of you wondering, like, this is not a competition, like, mashallah, it's completely different. Sister Wendy is Puerto Rican, and she has enlightened us with several books. A lot of the books my son actually grew up with. And so I have been of that era of following and reading and being my, bedtime stories type of thing, or decorating. Even for many years, we would pull out my first Ramadan and what have you. And I've gifted a few as well. And so, like Sister Orenda said, it is wonderful to see that now there's these books available and they complement one another, right? Because not everybody's Mexican, not everybody's Puerto Rican, not everybody can relate. So now you have, different books to come from. And inshallah, I want Sister Wendy to share a little bit about her journey. And I believe Mi Primer Ramadan was also your first book, correct?
So the first book I wrote was
Barba. Yeah.
I remember a beard.
Yeah.
And so the way I got started, and I think I've told this story before, is when I had my first son, and I didn't have any books in Spanish to teach him about Islam. And so I reached out to different, publishers, and I asked, can I translate your books? At that time, this was in 2006. So there weren't many books available at all in Spanish. And I'm telling you that we even contacted Muslims in Spain and in South America. And even they told us that there weren't any Spanish books for kids back then. So, it was a shocker for us. So that's how my family and I got started, basically, on trying to create resources for children, and especially for me, for the books. And the Ramadan book was the second book. And we released it back in, I think it was 2010. So it's been a while. So when I tell you, mashallah, when I first saw Sister Mariam's book, Trilingual Sofia, it was one of those things where I saw it kind of in passing online, and I was like, wait, what? And then I looked it up, and I was really blown away by the whole concept of it. I loved it. I have the book. I have both books now, alhamdulillah. And my kids loved it too, because they saw in the story something that they could relate to. Mm-hmm. And that's the important thing. For Sister Nahela, you mentioned like not wanting competition. Of course, you see when you go to the store, you'll see a bunch of Ramadan books, but from different cultural perspective. You'll see a lot of them from a kind of a Middle Eastern perspective, with Middle Eastern or South Asian characters, and them going through the motions of Ramadan through their own experiences, which is beautiful too, right? But we don't see stories that we can relate to as converts and even as Latino Muslims. So having more is always better, right? The more the merrier, they say. So I've been an advocate for these many years for others to also write similar books that I can purchase for my kids, books that have Spanish in them, so that I can teach them. I still have small kids. My oldest is 15, my youngest is 1. So I still need all these resources. So as many as I can get, so that I can teach my kids in their language. To us, that's very, very important.
And that's the beauty. We are a very diverse group of people in the Muslim community, right? We have people from all over the world and many different cultures, many different languages. And to be able to have, just like we had Sister Nadira on last month, there was a necessity for people to read the Quran in Braille. So they're creating that book because it's not out there, right? So it's amazing to see you guys see that necessity and then fill that void, because there's so many people maybe like me who know there's voids, but we don't really know or don't have that push to go behind and really create that. And so, mashallah, may Allah bless you guys for the efforts that you guys have made to fill that void for all these kids out there, because that's amazing to be able to connect with something and say, hey, that's me. I'm like, that's me. That's my faith. That's my holiday. And that's my language and my culture. So it's amazing.
Yeah, and I have to echo, the fact here, or the thing that I'm going to highlight, is that you're doing something about it. So many people nag and complain, and, well, there's not this, there's not that, who's not doing this? If I'm fighting for Palestine, why aren't you mentioning Yemen? If you're doing this, it's like, and what are you doing about it? And to see you ladies being so proactive, mashallah, and just seeing that there is that void, and going and do it, right? And so, like Sister Wendy said, she's been around for a minute, and mashallah, I've had the pleasure to actually travel with her books to my native Mexico. I forgot if I took some to the World Cup, but I know I went to Brazil, and just that exposure to be able to say, hey, there's these resources for the kids. Because one of the things, and this is what we want to get into now, is as parents, right? What is Ramadan supposed to look like, number one? In the West, for example, right? We see Christmas lights all over during December, or even in October, September, you start seeing Christmas lights. So it's like Christmas starts in the summer now. And so we don't have that for Ramadan. So we have to have these tools and resources in order for our children to be able to identify and love, love Ramadan, love their culture, love empanadas, if that's the tradition that you make in Ramadan. Like for me, I try to not make anything but flautas in Ramadan because my son loves them, and it's Mexican food, right? So, and I do my signs every year in Spanish, Feliz Ramadan, and Feliz Eid. And so my son's now 16. I think I decorate for me, not for him, but that's another story. He's just like, Mom, you don't need to put all that up anymore. I'm like, no, we do. We need to keep the culture. And so, like Sister Orenda said, perhaps you have older kids, but there will be, inshallah, one day grandkids. And now these resources will continue to flow into your families, your family tree. So as mothers, mashallah, because you have little ones, Sister Orenda and I are already, you have everything, Wendy, but like you have the little ones, mashallah, that I wish that I had a little one. I had to think about that. No. Enjoy that age, Sister Mariam. 2 and 4 is beautiful. Teenagers is a whole different beast over here.
That's the innocent age.
Yes, mashallah. So as mothers, we'll start with you, Wendy. As mothers, how have you made that, kept that up? Because obviously, like I said, Ramadan is a month. And, the Sahaba used to prepare 6 months ahead, but we're not the Sahaba, and life is busy. And so our kids are more visual nowadays. So alhamdulillah, things are slowly changing. We see at Party City, they have Ramadan decoration. But I'm a big fan of supporting small businesses. So please do go to Eat Away and all the other ones that are out there, inshallah. So how do you prepare? How have you kept that spirit up? Do you talk about it before? Do you talk it throughout the year? How can our viewers, our sisters that perhaps are struggling in the West, to maintain that light in order for their children to have much love as we did when we were not Muslim for Christmas per se, or whatever other holiday you celebrate?
For us, we definitely decorate the house. We start talking about it ahead of time, telling them Ramadan is coming. We're doing the countdown here, and letting them know we have to prepare, we have to get ready. We're going to be fasting, and ask them what they would like to do as far as, what kind of food they want to have for iftar. What do they want? Where do they want to go pray? What kind of things that we can do together as a family. And I usually try to plan some type of goal that I want to achieve. This on Sound Vision, we did a gratitude board, which was just basically a huge post-it that I posted on the hallway, and I put Alhamdulillah for ... And then I told them every day during Ramadan, write something in there. so that they remember to be grateful for everything that they have. And whatever thing it came to mind, they would write it down. And so we would read over them and things like that. So, I mean, I feel like for me, I like to keep things simple because I want us to focus more on what's important. The fasting, the prayer, the reading the Quran, letting them know that this is the month of the Quran and we should strive to read some, at least, even if it's a small amount each day. For the kids, as we know, the younger kids are not going to be able to sit there with the mushaf and read a whole juz, but at least we can kind of sit in a circle and do something like that.
Mashallah, I love that. I love that. I mean, I think I want to start that now, the gratitude thing. So I have a jar where I put stuff, and I think that's an excellent concept. And also throughout the year, something that I do, all the spare change, I put it in a sadaqah jar. And so we're building on sadaqah money. And so every time we go and cash our coins, we get the money and then we start splitting. So every time, if it's $10, I mention it. 5 for you, Andrew, 5 for me. Like we're getting the blessing as a family, right? So we split it. And even when we go to Juma, it's like, okay, I only have 10 cash, 5 for you, 5 for me, or 10 for you, 10 for me. And so inshallah, I'm hoping that he will do that with his children one day. Sister Mariam, you have little ones. They're fun, and I know they're still kind of little, but you said you were inspired the first book by your son. So is there anything fun, or are you preparing in any specific way for Ramadan this year?
We do have some decorations my mom got us from Egypt. I don't know if this pattern has a name, but it's the pattern that's used for like tablecloths and household decorations. So this is going to be something they're going to be seeing around the house, these colors, and reinforcing that, this is for Ramadan, saying that word over and over again so that they know that this is a different time that we're going through. I remember last year, Yusuf was 3, and he was still at that age where he would try to feed me and my husband in our mouths. And we would tell him, it's Ramadan. We can't eat until the sun goes down. We're fasting. We can't eat until the sun goes down. He kind of caught on eventually. So we're going to be talking about that again this year, inshallah. It's kind of fun to find ourselves really simplifying what this is, what we're doing. So, and then we can take out our, I eat breakfast at Abuela's and be reading this. I don't have my Ramadan book yet. Wendy's ahead of me. Alhamdulillah, she has the copy of book 2. But I could show it to them on the phone. I have a PDF I could show them so that they know that it's a theme that we're going through. And we'll try to get with our neighbors and do story time with the neighbors and do little crafts like making lantern-shaped charity packets. They're not boxes, they're just sheets. So, staying on theme. I would love to have him go to the masjid, but with COVID still kind of making things uncertain, it's probably not a good idea yet. Maybe if it's not, my husband sees that it's not packed and it's fine. It's nice to be a part of the masjid at this time of the year also. These are the ideas that I have, and I'm going to be learning from what you're going to be saying today as well.
Yeah, well, we have older kids. I know Sister Orenda has 4. I only have 1, alhamdulillah, but he's worth 10. And I say that very, very seriously. He's worth 10. Mashallah, tabarakallah. Pray for me. So I think now that he's much older, I allow him to teach me as well. I know that sounds weird as parents, especially in the Islamic culture. We're seen as the teachers, but our children have a lot to teach us as well. And so this is something that we need to be very, very mindful when it comes to even this time, because subhanAllah, during COVID, he was leading me during Tarawih. It was him. My little family consists of 2, and he was leading me, and I was bawling. And I never thought when I converted, my little 1-year-old would one day lead me in prayer. And it was honestly the best Ramadan of my life. It was surreal. It was quiet. It was calm. But also, sometimes they don't want to do things that we want to do, and we need to let them voice whatever it is that they want to do. And in that, I've learned a lot of things, right? There's sometimes where he says no, and we get upset because no is not an answer for our moms. I would do you mean no? But you know, I'm learning. I'm far from perfect, obviously, but yeah, I'm listening. And so last night we were at our halakha, and we told our kids, our boys, Sister Orenda and I, our boys are friends, and we're like, "You're gonna lead the next halakha," and they're like, "Yeah, okay, we're gonna be talking about patience. You parents need to have more patience."
Great
So-
subject, sabr before Ramadan. But keep in mind, there's not all parents there.
Because the hunger, because the uncomfortness, because we go through the first week of, you know, adjustments and what have you. And so they're obviously getting all of that energy from us. And they're also remembering, oh, okay, mom can get a certain way before Ramadan or the first week of Ramadan. So that's what I'm talking about, listening to our kids as well, inshallah. But Sister Renda, with your four, I mean, you have 2 adults and 2 teenagers.
Yeah.
Anything you're doing?
Well, I mean, now it's not so much what I'm doing now because they're more a part of what they're doing during Ramadan now, like their own celebration way or what they choose to do. It's not so much all a family issue just because we do have 2 adults, they have work, they have school, so it's a little different. But when they were younger, I think what Sister Mariam was explaining is so important. And I'm sure Sister Wendy does the same thing. And I know Sister Nahela has had this experience as well, is talking about it consistently, no matter how old they are, even at that very young age, because as they get older, and I know Andrew started fasting very young as well because of influences around him. Same with my son. He started wanting to fast in 1st grade. Like, Mom, I'm fasting every day. And I was like, are you sure? You know, and he's like, yeah. So when they watch it, they learn from a young age and they want to emulate what they see. They're trying to, you know, be that grown up, or they want to do what other people are doing around them. And so it's really important. Some people think, oh, my kids are little, you know, they can't fast now. And it's not that you make them fast. It's the fact that they want to be a part of that experience. And so to let them do it, he never made it maybe many days, full days in 1st grade, but he tried. And that was the important thing. I was like, okay, you're going to get up. We would always get them up for suhoor. So early in the morning, we'd get up, we'd all eat together, do our Fajr prayer, and then go back to sleep. They would read a little Quran in the morning then. It was much more structured when they were little because they all listened very well. And as they get older, they have their own minds. But yeah, I think that was the biggest key looking back on it, is just don't be shy about sharing with your kids, no matter how old they are. Because eventually, when the consistency is happening in your home every year, they see that as an important time of the year. They see everything's different during that time, and they're going to start learning on their own, not because you tell them they need to, right? So yeah. I think that was the biggest thing my kids took away from it. But we did a lot of Ramadan countdowns, the charity jar. We did grateful jar too. So we had a grateful jar we would start, but we would keep it for the whole year. That's a challenge to get the kids to think positive. We did it every day, and then I had to switch it to once a week because it was difficult for them to focus on the gratitude. So it's a good experience from a young age. You can write it for them. But then we would read it at the end of the next year. So when Ramadan would come again, we would take them all out and have so much fun reading what each person wrote. So
no, mashallah. Sister Wendy, you have the range. So for the moms that are watching and perhaps, you know, are struggling or don't even know how to start. I know it, you know, like Sister Renda's saying that, you know, they want to emulate. They want to, you know, you have little siblings. Like for me, it was me and Andrew and I. And so it was just him and I, and it was actually school. He had a little friend that he fasted the whole day and he came back. And his name was actually Othman. And he's like, oh, Othman, you know, fasted and I'm going to fast tomorrow. And I was like, okay, you do that. And then he's like, and he fasted the next day too. So I'm going to fast too. But up until that point, we were adding an hour from 5 years old till like 9. We were like just incrementing. And, you know, sometimes I would take them to work with me. So I'd be like, okay, eat. Like I'm hungry at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, eat. I fasted. Yes, you fasted. So the encouragement was there. And so sometimes that click happens when you least expect it. And that's what happened in my case. But how has it been for you and the children, or do you just let them be? I mean, you have the age gap that you can share with our audience, because I'm sure there's a lot of sisters that don't even know where to begin.
So with I forgot to mention that we also put a piñata up in the middle of the living room every Ramadan.
Oh,
And
Oh, that
it's
is
like
so cool.
a reminder that Eid is coming and that piñata is going to be breaking on Eid.
nice.
Just thought about that because of Mariam. Um, for the smaller kids, of course, the younger ones, I have the 1-year-old, 4-year-old, and 6-year-old. I don't, of course, expect them to fast the whole day, but I encourage them, to try and explore whatever they want to do. The little ones will always be like, "Yay, I'm fasting," and then they'll be like, you'll catch them eating something, and you're like, "I thought you were fasting." And I was like, "Oh, I did." Okay. So, mashallah, they're at least trying to do it. The older ones, they are 10, 13, and 15, and alhamdulillah, they have already spent almost, I mean, the previous Ramadan's fasting. I think the younger one of that group, last Ramadan was the first time she did the whole month. But before then, she did maybe half a month or something like that, like every other day or something. So you kind of slowly transition them into fasting the whole month, and it works out well, alhamdulillah. And we know that those fasts, they count for them, but they don't count against them if they don't do it right. So it's just a way for them to learn how to kind of get into it when they're older.
It makes them excited too when you let them know, okay, well, we're you're not obligated, but you want to try it out, and then but by this age, we got to practice so that we're ready at this age, right?
Right.
So they know they're working up to it. They know there's a certain time where they're going to be held accountable and try to do their best to follow that. And so that teaching them from that young age makes it much easier than just ignoring it, thinking they're young, and then it comes time for them to be, part of the adult world, and it's hard to adjust them. So it's really important to keep that constant training going on.
I want to mention that depending also on where they're going to school, like let's say they're in public school or they're in Islamic school. In Islamic school, you're going to see that they're going to be encouraged to fast, and they're going to be surrounded by everyone who's fasting. When they're in public school, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more of a challenge because their peers are obviously not fasting. And but what I've found is that in public school, they're very accommodating. If you approach the administration and you tell them it's Ramadan, sometimes I've had them come to me and tell me, we know Ramadan is coming.
Mm-hmm.
So, your child has the option of going to the library for lunch or staying in her classroom. So it's amazing. I mean, that those accommodations exist, but we do have to be very vocal about that, and not be shy, or have any fear that we're going to meet resistance. Right?
That's really important. And I stress that to all the parents out there with kids in school, public school especially. The biggest point to make it successful for your kids and make it easy for your kids is to communicate with the administration and with the teachers. When you keep that open communication, I used to always send, and you can find it online, sample letters for Ramadan, sample letters for Eid, to be excused from school for Eid so they don't have to go during Eid day. They're very accommodating. I've never had an issue, and we've gone through many different public schools in many different states. And so that is the key point. And the kids won't feel it's awkward. They won't feel so out of the loop if that communication is very clear between the parents, the teachers, and the administration. They all work together. And even a lot of them will ask you to do a presentation or ask the kids to do some type of sharing with their class so they're aware of what's going on as well. Now you see in some states where they're, giving days off for Eid, but not all states have followed yet. So as parents, don't worry, your kids will complain. They're kids. No matter what they're doing in school, there's going to be something they're going to be saying, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. But you can make it much easier for them. So
I can't focus. I can't focus is a big one.
Yeah,
I can't focus because they're hungry. But
I can watch everyone eat, but they don't have to sit in the lunchroom. So
yeah. Right. Right.
I wanted to add
Okay.
on to what Orenda said about communication, and Wendy also said this, communicating with the school. Because my brother, he's 7 years younger than me, so I saw a lot of the things that he went through. And he got in trouble because it was Ramadan. He wasn't prepared to run the mile. The teacher knew, the school knew, but his classmates, a girl in his class said that Ramadan was over. And it could have been over for her, but it wasn't over. And my brother got in trouble and he was forced to run the mile. My mom, she went in and talked to the teacher about it. So yeah, it is important to be connected with the school because the teachers really don't know.
Yeah.
Right. Well, there's a little bit more exposure today. I would actually, I see it more and more. And it actually comes up on your calendar now, on every calendar in the US as Ramadan begins. I'm like, how do they know? They haven't seen the moon, but they know when Ramadan begins and when Ramadan ends. So we've talked about decorations. We talked a little bit about the fasting. Is there anything that you ladies want to share when it comes to, educating your children about Ramadan, when it comes, inshallah, I can't read and I can't read and talk.
Well, it's a very good point. These
Yeah.
books that these ladies have, authored are extremely beneficial to share in your schools.
Right.
Give it as a donation to the library in your school. Give it as a donation in the classroom, because usually teachers will have their own small library in their classrooms as well as in the school library. So when you communicate these things with your teacher, your kid's teacher, you can share these books, and that's something they can incorporate into that month.
So you're bringing resources, right? So that's important. And almost every school has a librarian as well. You can go directly to the librarian and say, I can donate. And we're talking to the audience, inshallah, and you get sadaqah for that, right? So go and purchase these books. And if you want your faith to be integrated in the sense of you want them to know what you are practicing or what is coming up when it comes to Ramadan and Eid. So we would highly recommend that you purchase the books and donate them to the school, inshallah. And if you're comfortable, reach out to one of these wonderful authors and see if they're willing to do a story time. That would be also great. Or you as a parent as well. I remember when my son was really little, he went to a non-Muslim daycare, and they asked me to come and do something for the little ones. And so what I did was for Eid al-Adha, I made the little sheep with cotton balls, and that's what the little kids did. I wasn't that creative or that savvy back then, so that's all that came to mind. And I was like, okay, we're gonna make little sheeps, and we talked a little bit about, but they were so little, they were like 4. So it was more hands-on. But yeah, highly recommend that you talk to your librarians, to reach out to your librarians, or even your public libraries. This is ongoing sadaqah. So we're talking about, you want to do good deeds in Ramadan, order you some 12 books and, start delivering, say, you know what? I got the resources for you, inshallah. And this is a good way to also advocate for our holidays, our religion, and not compromise anymore to what is being fed to us. So we need to make sure to be proactive. So instead of complaining, we are giving you tools and resources today to do something about it. And it's just go on very easily. We've put the links on the comment section, inshallah, and you can order them directly. You can even have them shipped once you talk to the librarian. You can have them shipped directly to the school if you don't want to do all of that. So alhamdulillah, we're in the era of easy. Everything is really, really easy. You don't even have to get out of your house. So you can have it shipped. You can make a phone call. You can say, I'm going to be delivering these books. I would like it to be presented, or what have you. Because in the other holidays, they are presented with Christmas books, Thanksgiving books, Halloween books, you name it. So we are a fabric of this country, and we are not going anywhere. So let's make sure that we are also taking back our narrative and sharing our stories. And these books are doing that on our behalf with these 2 authors, inshallah. So ladies, what else would you give advice? I know Ramadan comes once a year, but it shouldn't take every year for us to only be talking about these books. I think it should be throughout the year, right? Like we mentioned in the beginning, in the time of the Prophet, the Sahaba used to prepare 6 months. And so how do we get more involved, aside from our librarians? Any suggestions as far as how do we integrate our children or make the accommodations easier by the time Ramadan comes, inshallah? Either one of you.
In terms of the book, or just bettering
Yeah, the
themselves?
books. Like we want to make sure that obviously you guys are authors and you will continue writing, inshallah, because obviously we need more books. And so in our schools, we just had book fair day. And then there's another month where it's dedicated to read. And so obviously this is an ongoing thing throughout the year. How can we get, our schools, or even our communities, I think the masjid should have a read day, and they should invite authors like yourselves. I personally think it would be great because the diversity is what makes Islam so beautiful, right? We're not all Arabs, we're not all Asian, we're not all. So it's wonderful to be able to bring Sofia's book, to bring, little Omar to the masjid. And, there's some sisters that perhaps are not technical savvy or do not go online. So to bring the actual books to the masjid, if there's any board members watching us or anyone that can actually facilitate that, we also want to encourage you. And we will put Sister Wendy's website and Sister Mariam's information here too, so you can contact them directly. But any advice you ladies have on anything at this point for our audience?
That's a loaded question, huh? Lots of information.
I don't, Sister Mariam, I don't know if you've done any story times. Have you done any?
I have, but not this year yet.
Okay.
But those, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I've had some schools contact me to do story time. So I've actually been able to now with Zoom and with these type of streaming platforms. Alhamdulillah, I've been able to read books to students in Michigan or in Florida from the comfort of my own home here in Maryland. Yeah. So it's awesome. And we have Mariam here, who's not even in the country right now, but she's with us, right?
Yeah.
So I think any school, any community that wants to have their children exposed to these books and have an author come and bring a story time virtually or in person, then definitely I'm available. Sister Mariam has done it as well. So we're open, to anyone contacting us and letting us know, and we can make something happen, inshallah.
Yeah, the story time is really good, especially since the kids get to ask questions about the content of the story, what's behind this idea that you had written for them to read. And they might even ask you about, how do you write a story? How do you get in touch with an illustrator? Maybe they want to be illustrators. So it opens up a stream for them. And yeah, the story book readings are really good. In addition, in the past, Wendy and I have collaborated with giveaways. So if these schools and masjids are in touch with us via our social media, Instagram and Facebook and so on, they'll get an opportunity to find out about when we have giveaways, and that's a good way for us to get our books sent directly to them as well.
MashaAllah. Beautiful.
MashaAllah, maybe.
And I love that.
Maybe that's what we'll do here at Embrace. We'll do a giveaway, inshallah. Reverts reality. I know that we do a contest every year here. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
I hear you.
Oh, okay. I know we do a contest of decoration every year for our reverts within the country. So perhaps we'll do a bundle of something, and we'll talk to you ladies offline. But that's another idea. But I am going to contact. I know at least 5 librarians, which I'm going to contact and ask them to actually present these books to them. Perhaps they don't know about them. So I'm going to do my homework. I hope everybody else on here does theirs too. because we all have a responsibility as an ummah, right? These sisters have been writing the books. They've been working tirelessly on, executing the books out and making sure they're accessible to us. But we as a community also have a responsibility. And so that's why we made it a point to bring them on today, as Ramadan is literally a couple weeks ago, a week away. So now also you have a responsibility to, inshallah, either bring it to your community, to your school, to your masjid, or your circle. Perhaps you are a mom that is part of a group and has a lot of moms that have little kids. There's a lot of homeschooling. So there's many options out there. Don't ever feel like you're alone or like you're the only Muslim in your city and there's nothing else. Now, like Sister Wendy said, with Zoom, we can connect anywhere. So inshallah, even story time can happen online. So we actually look forward to take this to our halaqah, inshallah, in the coming weeks as well, to make sure that our audience at Embrace is tangibly, and hopefully by then I'll have your book too, Sister Mariam, so they can see what's out there, within the Revert community or within the DFW area. So tell us, for anyone that wants to contact you, I know we're going to put it on here, but both of you, can you share your information?
Sister Mariam?
Yes. So for me, it's mostly the Instagram. The handle is Trilingual Sofia.
Okay.
That's the best one for me. I'm also, it's linked to a Facebook also, but so I access the Facebook, but I'm not active on the Facebook. So if they're only working on Facebook, that's fine too. And I have a business account for the Instagram, so there's a button for them to email me if they'd like to email me.
Okay. Sister Wendy?
So I also have Instagram at author Wendy Díaz, and if you'd like to email me directly, authorwendydiaz@gmail.com. Very simple. You can follow me on Facebook as well, and also follow my nonprofit organization Hablamos Islam for everything about Islam in Spanish, in the Spanish language, for children especially, and even for adults too. We provide resources for them.
Well, our show is coming to an end. Any last advice that you may have for anyone watching, Sister Mariam?
Yeah, you use the word proactive, and I love that word. I like to encourage mostly teenagers and youth in their 20s to be proactive. There was a time when I wasn't, around senior year in high school, and a couple years later, I looked back and I realized how much time I had wasted, how much I could have grown in the time that I had. So, and that's what led me to becoming involved in my community, and I got involved with the masjid at that time. So Ramadan is actually a really good time for proactivity, especially for kids, especially for those who want to be distracted while they're fasting or while they're trying to fast. And you'll see this in a Ramadan fiesta in book 2. The kids are fasting for the first time, and on several occasions, Jose is about to whine, about to complain, and he's redirected. Hey, how about we do this? Hey, why don't you come and help me with this? So they're learning and getting things done throughout the day to keep them busy. So whether it's Ramadan or not, but this is something that I think is, because we're taught to worship while we're fasting. We're supposed to worship, and bettering ourselves is a form of worship. So if they're too young to be reading Quran or reading or praying too much, they could be actively doing something else. And in that, they have that life lesson that they are growing, they are expanding their skills.
I love that. I love that, mashallah. I think, it doesn't matter what age group you have in children. So alhamdulillah, I love that advice. I think that goes for all of us. We waste a lot of time. So we need to make sure to, fasten our seatbelt. I know that some say that it takes 27 days to create a new habit. And so we have the luxury of 30 days with blessing. So this is a good time for every single one of us, including, us, the parent, or what have you. So Jazakallah khair for that, Sister Mariam. Wendy?
Mashallah, I love that too. And I've gotten a lot of ideas from this conversation as well. I remember some communities, especially in New Jersey, they would actually be making sandwiches and making packs of food, and also like Outreach in the Barrio does the same thing throughout the year, right? But during Ramadan as well in Houston, they feed the homeless. So maybe do something like that for every day that we're fasting. We're also feeding someone. It's a beautiful thing to do that. And mashallah, yes, definitely. So the word for this Ramadan is going to be stay proactive.
Yeah.
Jazakallah item for that. I appreciate it. Thank you for having us.
No, thank you, ladies. And again, inshallah, we will be talking a little bit more about Ramadan and into Ramadan. So we are not stopping even through Ramadan with Reverts Reality. If you have any topics that you would want us to bring, we are shifting a little after we hit the 100 episode, but we won't give you more details than that. But we're 8 episodes shy away from the 100 episode, and this just started during the pandemic, and we were very proactive, and we kept it going. So sometimes we're scrambling for topics, and so this is also a manifesto of what it looks like to continue to strive to seek for Allah's pleasure. So it can be either, writing, like Sister Mariam said, illustrating. Sister Wendy's son, mashallah, is an illustrator. He's Hafiz of the Quran. I mean, mashallah, so many good things can come out during this time and beyond. So take full advantage. We are literally shy away 16 days from Ramadan as of today, approximately. So we hope that you enjoyed this episode today, and we hope it was beneficial. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to get to Ramadan. Ameen. And we will see you next Thursday at 11 Central. Remember that we have programming throughout the weekend here at Embrace, and it will continue through Ramadan, inshallah. So until next time, my name is Nahela Morales. I'm here again with my co-host, Sister Orenda, Dadkhah, and 2 wonderful authors, Sister Wendy Díaz and Sister Mariam Saad. Thank you, ladies, for joining us. And until next time, don't forget to share this video out. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.